Okay, guys, this is where it gets a lot more fun. The effects are really cool that we're going to do today. So we're done cutting this out. We have the softball player on her own layer, and we made a gradient adjustment layer underneath it. Okay, now we're going to do the real part of Marty's tutorial. Now I'm going to zoom in for this because the closer you're zoomed in, the better off it's going to be, because we're going to make a very narrow selection right down her body. So we're going to get your rectangular selection tool. Now in Photoshop, there's a single row selection tool, which is really nice for this. In Photopea, they don't have that. So I'm going to select the rectangular selection tool. So in the toolbox, I'm clicking a hole, and it's the one right underneath the move tool, rectangular selection tool. And what we're going to do essentially is we're going to make a really tall, narrow selection. And I'm going to start way up at the top of our image, and I'm going to click and drag. And I really would like to have this be 1 pixel wide, but if it's a little bit more, that's fine. It's all right. But when I did this Satchel Page one, it was, I think, 2 pixels wide. So it depends how far you were able to zoom in. I'm going to just, it looks like I can make it 1 pixel, but I'm just going to make it 2 pixels just so you don't feel bad if you aren't able to get 1 pixel. Okay, so I have this, this selection here. And you're going to make sure you're on the layer that has the picture on it. And I'm going to copy and paste that selection to a new layer. So I want to hit Command C, Command V, or Control C, Control V on a PC. And it made a new layer. And now I'm going to get my Move tool. Now, you don't see it because it copied it right on top of itself. And it's so narrow that you can't even see it like in here. There's no thumbnail picture for it. But when I get my Move tool, you will see that there is a bounding box for this. If you don't see the bounding box, make sure you have Transform Controls checked off right here. You want that on. Okay. Now, we're simply going to, I'm going to zoom out a little bit now. We're simply going to select the tab here. Oh, I'm not on my Move tool. That helps. And I'm off my Move tool again. You should be able to, let me zoom in a little bit. Maybe it's giving me trouble. You should be able to, here we go, start to stretch this out. Okay, so I had to zoom in to grab it. Now I'm going to zoom out again, and it should be easier for me to grab. And I'm going to drag this all the way out, and you can see the colors. Now I want to put it right at the edge of the screen. If you don't, you might run into a little bit of trouble later on. Marty actually used the crop tool when he was done doing this. He just pulled them straight off the screen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this right up here to the top of the screen. And we need a little more. We want this to take up about half of the picture total. So I'm going to hit the check mark now, top of the screen, to apply the transformation, or double click inside there or hit enter. And I need a little bit more. So now I'm going to zoom back in, and I'm going to try to find a place where there's at least a little bit of banding of color. And so I'm going to go back. Remember, if we're going to make a selection, we have to go back to the layer that has the picture on it, because that's what we need. And I'm going to click and drag another narrow box. And that's right. We're on this layer. We hit Command C, Command V again, or Control C, Control V. We go get our Move tool in the toolbox. And hopefully we could scale, there we go. We can scale this straight out. Now you see when you have 2 pixels, like the way I have, there's going to be a little bit of bounce in the middle of it. That's fine. If you had 3 pixels, it might be bounced a little bit further along. Now I'm going to put this right underneath here. If they're overlapping, that's a good thing. Try not to leave a space between these two. Marty used the snap function to get it just right. I'm just going to leave mine overlapping like that. Now I'm going to hit the check mark again. Now we have both these, what we're going to use for our design, are both on different layers. We want these to be on the same layer. So you're going to select the topmost layer, and you're going to hit Command E or Control E on your PC. And that, see what happened there? It merged it down into one layer. Okay? So I'm going to undo that real quick. This layer is the one that's selected. I hit Command E, and it merges it with the layer that's underneath there. So now this is all one layer. When I move this, it's all one layer. Okay, leave this at the very top, and then here comes the cool effect. Okay, we're going to go to, if you have the check mark on the screen, make sure you hit check mark first. We're going to go to Filter, and it's a filter, it's Distort, and it's Polar Coordinates. And I'll take whatever's at the top of the screen and bring it down and make it into like this little target sign that's here. And now I'm going to click OK. Now I have a little bit of a white line there, which is okay because I'm going to erase part of this out anyway. So now we get our Move tool. If you're not in it, go back to it. Show Transform Controls is checked. And we're going to scale this up. Now, how do I want this to fit on her? Well, I want the circle to pretty much touch the edges of mostly everything. If there's a foot or something that's outside of the edge, that's fine. So this last foot over here is not going to fit inside the picture. Maybe if I move it a little bit. But that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. All right. So, but I do want the pieces to barely be peeking out from behind that like kind of target symbol there. Okay, this layer is on top. I need it behind this layer. So once again, we're going to drag that down between these two layers and let go. And now it's behind there. Hey, that looks pretty good. Not bad. Okay, you got to decide now, which part of the background are you going to erase out? I think this area right here is definitely something that we could erase, or maybe this area here. If you have like a mark, like I have where it kind of went on itself, it leaves like a little bit of a line there. So I want to make sure that spot is going to be in a place where I'm erasing, or it's behind something. So I'm kind of hiding that behind her glove. All right. So now I need to erase this out. So I'm on layer 2. So make sure you're on, actually no, you want to erase part of the target sign. So I'm going to be on the target sign, and I'm going to go to Mask. So you could use the eraser here and just simply erase out the area, but I want to just go over masks because again, so I'm going to click on the mask button, which is this button right here. And if you take, Marty used a pencil tool, so in your brush tool window, there is pencil tool. When you click on this, you have to actually click and hold and then click again to get the pencil tool. It's a little annoying because sometimes it gets stuck with the brush. You want to have a nice big pencil tool and a hardness 100. And then what you could do is, I'm painting actually in black to get rid of, oh yeah, it's working. Okay, good. It looked a little funny when I started in the middle there. To get rid of that piece of the target sign. Okay, so either use your eraser tool or you can use the mask. So you see, and you can see what I'm doing. I'm painting black where it's getting rid of that stuff. Okay, so, and if you go too far, let's say you go too far, like if I go over here and I start, oh no, I got the other side of her arm. All right, well, I'll come back and get that in a second. When I switch my colors to white, I can actually paint that back. That's what's cool about a mask, because if I made this kind of mistake over here, oh no, like I erased too much, what you could do is you could switch the colors. So now if I make my foreground color white, so there's a little button right there to swap my colors. Now when I go and paint this white, you're actually painting the mask back in. Okay, so you're allowing it to now to come through. That's why masks are so useful in Photoshop and Photo P programs like this. Hey, that looks pretty good. Okay, last couple effects. Marty put a drop shadow on the girl, or whatever your subject is. So that is going to be, so make sure I'm on her layer. I go to Effect, I go to Drop Shadow, And Marty had all these numbers and stuff that, you know, he made you type in. But you know what? Just look at it. Hey, that looks pretty good. Okay, there's my shadow. There's no shadow. Okay, so I'm changing my opacity. My blend mode's on multiply already. You know, if you want it to be a little bit bigger, you mess around with it. You know, these numbers are dependent on how big your image was to begin with. So those of you who have like a 2,000 pixel image, you know, your numbers are going to be bigger here. You know, double mine to get it to look the same. Okay, that looks fine to me. I click OK. I like the shadow all around her. I like the shadow behind the glove. I don't like the shadow popping out over here. So how do I erase part of the shadow? Well, Marty used something where he made his own layer style he made his own layer from the drop shadow. You can't do that in Photopea. But what we can do is we can go to layer and we can do rasterized layer style. Now, once I do this, I cannot go in and edit my drop shadow in the layer style window anymore. But what I can do is I could just take my eraser and I can actually just erase out. And you can see the lag in Photopea right now, probably because it's getting a little later in the day. More people are coming on. And what I could do is I can erase out around her foot down here. I actually erased part of her foot, but that's all right. No one's going to know the difference. I'll make this brush a little bigger now since I got the details. And voila. Okay. Not bad. All right. And then the last little effect that Marty did, and I'm going a little quicker now, I know, but this is just the last ditch effects here, is I could make a new layer. I'm going to drag this layer to the bottom. So this is a new layer that I made, and I'm dragging it all, well, actually not to the bottom, but in between the target sign and the background. And this is where we're going to make our little fake drop shadow. So Marty used a brush, and I'm going to use a 200 pixel brush on this one, hardness 0, and I'm really just going to click once right down here. Oh, and you know what? I want that to be black, so I'm going to undo that. I'm going to swap my colors back, and that's a tiny little swap button there, but I think you'll see it on your computer. Now I made it black, and this is how he did it. He took the move tool, dragged this down, and then you scale it out wide to make it a little more elliptical. This way it looks like it's in perspective underneath, and boom, there we go. That looks pretty good. And if you want to be a little bit more transparent, you just drag this opacity down a little bit and it's a little more subtle. The only other thing I did on mine was if you want to change the color a little bit of your radial design here, if you click directly on this part of the thumbnail and then hit, then go to image adjustments and then go to hue saturation window, you can play around in here and you can change the hue of the background. So let's say if I want her to stand out more, I can use an opposite color, or I could, you know, bring the saturation down and play around with this a little bit. Okay, so that's pretty much the whole thing. And you know, I'm curious to see what your projects look like. I'll give you guys about a week to work on this, and you know, I'm looking forward to seeing it. It's a really cool tutorial, and it's a nice little trick to know. All right, guys. Let me know if you have any problems. Send me an email. I try to be available as much as possible, and I'll try to help you out. I know it's rough doing it this way. It puts a lot of the onus on you guys to learn on your own and look up videos and try to figure it out. I do have an option for this project, so make sure you read the Schoology thing carefully. Like if you had a really hard time with this or there's no way you're going to be able to do it, I do have a second option for you. Okay. Take care, guys.